Hello Scrappy friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to have some fun with our tools. So I haven't done this in a while. I used to call this Tools Roulette, and I've also called it Rocking Your Tools. So basically what it is I have a random number generator generate the tools that I'm going to use on my layout. I love doing this for two reasons. One, it's super fun, and two, it's just a challenge. It's a challenge to see if I could have random tools and see if I could create a layout and finish a couple of pages. That is it. I don't do it for any other reason. I just think it's a fun challenge, and I hope when we're done with this video that you think it's a fun challenge too, and maybe you'll even give it a try. What I've done is I have a list of all the different tools that I have, and these are all just my Creative Memory tools. It doesn't count like my metal die cuts or my other punches that are not Creative Memories. I'm focusing on my Creative Memories tools. What I used to do in the past is I had one big list and I would pick 3 random tools. But recently what I've decided to do is to break them into 4 different categories. I have general tools, border punches, standalone punches, and then border making cartridges. I decided to break up my list because the last time I did it, I ended up with 3 border making cartridges on one layout. And although I did enjoy that challenge and I got it done, but this time I thought, I wanted to kind of break it up and kind of give a little bit of love to all my different tools, not just my border making cartridges. So that's going to be my goal today, 1 from each list, and see if I could create a layout. I have done this recently with my VIP croppers. What we did then was we did the same concept. I picked 1 from each list, but what we did differently was we started with a sketch, and that made it a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in this sketch right here. This is a sketch from the last Creative Memories virtual crop. It was sketch number 3. I haven't done this one yet, so I thought, why not give it a try? I don't know if I'm going to do it exactly like this, but this is going to give me a jumping off place, a place where I can start my layout and maybe incorporate tools right away. I don't know. I don't even know if I will follow this once I see what tools I pick, but I have it here just in case. So let's go ahead and pick the tools. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my tablet, and I already have my number generator dialed up here. And we'll go ahead and start with the standalone punches. I'm going to start with 1. My max is 52, and I'm going to say generate. And it gave me number 50. So on my list, number 50 is my fresh flowers punch. Okay, that's probably not going to be too hard since I love flowers. Okay, and now on my border making cartridges, again, I'm going to start with number 1, and I have 44 of those, so I'm going to say generate, and this time it said number 5. Number 5 is a border making cartridge called Starry. Okay, and now my general tools, come back to our number generator, clear that out. My max on this one is 25, and let's go ahead and generate 13. Number 13 is the trimmer blade, the perforating trimmer blade. So that's fun. So what my general tools are things like my custom cutting system, my 12-inch decorative trimmer. Of course, I listed all the blades, just some of the random tools that we have, like the distressor tool, things like that. Okay, last one is the border punch. So let's go ahead and clear this. And I have 40, and we'll generate a number, and we got 27. Okay, and that is Rainbow Ripple. Let me go ahead and put my tablet away. There we go. I have all my tools selected, and I'm going to pause the camera, go collect all the tools, my paper, and my photos, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and these are the 4 tools that were randomly generated for me. I have the fresh flower, the rainbow ripple border punch, the starry border making cartridge, and the perforating blade. These 2 are discontinued, and these 2 are still available. Okay, so let's start off by talking about the Perforating Blade. So when this one came up, I was a little bit concerned. Like, this is not a blade I use very often in my scrapbooking. I think this is a great blade for lots of different paper crafting projects. I just don't use it a lot on my scrapbook. So this one's going to be a challenge, but I want to tell you what I came up with. So using this one on a scrapbooking page to me is about adding that little bit of texture to your page. So this is not going to make a big difference on my page, but I am going to bring it in a couple times today and see how it could kind of enhance our pages. In all reality, I do not use this one too often, but let me tell you what I mean by adding texture. So here's one way that I've used it in the past. I took a piece like this, or a lined piece, and I used the notebook edge punch along the side, and then I ran the perforating blade down next to the edge punch, and it gives that look that it was a notebook piece of paper that just came right out of a notebook, because it has that seam that we would see in a notebook. So I have done that before, so I didn't want to use that technique. So here's a tag that I cut out. Let me bring in this white piece. So here you can see that I had trimmed along this tag with the perforating blade, and then I ripped off the edge, and it left me with this little bit of texture here. So that gives us a little bit different kind of texture than we would get with our distressing tool or some of our other blades. So here it is along the edge. So let me show you. I have one more line here, and when I start to cut it apart, you can see it has those little frays at the bottom. So that's another way that I would consider using it as well. But what I thought about doing for today is I took the blade and I kind of scored it along the edge of my photo mat. Now this is just my sample. It kind of gives almost a stitching effect. And I like that effect. I have lots of metal die cuts that do that same thing. You can see it across here. And so I do like that effect. So I'm kind of glad to know that I can now get that with my blade, but it does take some adjusting and careful slicing on the trimmer not to go all the way through the paper. So that's what I'm going to do with the perforating blade. I'm going to just bring it in with a little bit of stitching element along a couple of photo mats and a couple other places in my layout that I will talk about when we get to it. Okay, so how did I begin? I first decided the best thing to do was to probably punch these two out. I haven't used these two in a while, so I thought I should punch them out and just kind of move them around my desk, get a piece of white cardstock out and start playing around. So I did that with these. This one I've been using a lot lately, so I'm really familiar with it. And as I was moving these around, the punch outs around, it just came to me. And what I decided I'm going to do for today's layout is create a border. So I'm going to take these tools and I'm going to create a border, and then we're going to create a layout. So as I was moving them around on my desk, I also discovered that these two gave me a real patriotic feel. So I'm going to create my border in red, white, and blue, and bring in the new perfectly patriotic paper pack and stickers to help create my layout today. So first thing, border, second thing, page. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and punch out one row from the Rainbow Ripple border punch. This punch is one of our easier ones because it has the little triangle right here that you can just line up on the platform, and then you have it in the right position, and you just slide and keep lining that up. Okay, now I'm going to trim this off, and I'm going to give myself since this is an edge punch, we now can determine how much we want to cut over here. And I'm going to give myself a generous amount over here so that I could then bring in my starry border making cartridge and punch along the other side. So I'm gonna do a 2.5 inches. I think that's gonna be enough for what I want to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that at 2.5. Now I'm gonna bring in the Starry border making cartridge and put this in my trimmer. I have enough up here to hold it in place nicely. Okay, and there we go. Doesn't that just scream patriotic? I think it does. It gives you that banner effect that you would see at parties and parades, and then all the stars that we would see when it comes to patriotic themes. So now what I'm going to do with this is a little bit large for me. So what I'm going to do is trim off the top row of the ripples. Just going to bring in my micro tip scissors and just continue the roundedness of the bottom rainbow part and just snip it right off like that. I'm just going to continue all the way around to all of these just so I can create a little bit smaller of a border to work with. There we go. And I'm going to keep this, is hopefully I'll be bringing that in on the other side. Okay, so let's continue decorating. I'm going to bring in a piece of cranberry cardstock and my old school Creative Memories circle punch because I want to use this 1.25 inch punch right here and cut out some circles that I can then back my behind the banner part of my border here. Because I have to give this punch a little bit extra of a punch down, so it's easier for me to do it like that. And I'm going to cut out probably 6. Okay, now I'm going to flip this over and adhere some circles. I'm not going to do this little edge piece right here. I'm going to come back and work on that one later. And what I'm going to do with these is fold them in half, which means I did not need 6 of them after all. I probably only needed 3. So that's okay. And I'm just going to back the back side of the ripply part here, or the rainbow section down here. And there we go. And that's our banner so far. Looking good. I left these ones open because I will be coming back in utilizing more of the tools that were selected. And I did end up with 3 left over, so we'll put those aside. Maybe we'll incorporate those on the other side. We'll see. So my next step is to bring in my fresh flower punch, and I'm going to bring in all 3 colors, red, white, and blue. This time I am switching to blue instead of the navy, just so I have a little bit of contrast. I'm going to punch out some of these fresh flowers, and I'm going to do them in red, white, and blue. I'm going to do 2 of each one. And now I'm going to assemble all of these, and what I'm going to do is just mix and match. You've seen me do this before. I'm going to first take the flower and I'll back it behind one of the other colors, and I'll lay some petals on it from the 3rd color. And I'm going to do that to all 6 of these. Okay, now I'll come back in and I'll put some of the red petals in here. And there we go, a patriotic flower, just like that. This is one way how I like to use this punch, is by backing it with a color and then bringing in some of those petals around the inside and topping it with one of the circles that come out or a gem. And if you want more ideas, I did do a whole video on how different ideas on how to use this punch. So a very versatile punch, but here we go. We have a patriotic flower. I'm going to get all the rest done and I'll be right back. Okay, so aren't these pretty? And they're just so patriotic. I came back in with a little gem on each one, brought some red, white, and blue half pearls from my stash in, and I think it just added a huge amount of difference to it. Okay, so what is my plan here? My plan is to take my flowers and place them on top of these empty areas that you see here. And I do want them hanging a little bit lower than the banner part of this. I'm only going to put 3 here, and I'm going to save 3 for the second page. So I'll go ahead and get these adhered down. I would like to take this opportunity to ask you if you're enjoying this video, and if you like these kind of, let's play with our tools kind of videos, please let me know by clicking that like button. I really do appreciate it. It really does help to spread my content throughout YouTube. And even if you're just a little bit intrigued, like where is she going with those tools, then go ahead and give me a like and a comment. Those both help me out, and thank you so much for doing that. Okay, so the last thing I want to do on this particular border is I'm going to bring in a piece of gray cardstock, and I'm going to change my blade. I want to try and get all 4 of the tools that I picked on this border. So to do that, I'm going to put a very thin piece of this gray cardstock on my border, and in the middle, or as close to the middle as I can get, I am going to have the little bit of texture from this perforating blade. Okay, so there it is. You can see that a little bit. And I'm going to put it back in here and try and just get a really thin cut. And it's not perfectly straight or in the middle, but it's going to be perfect for what I want to do. So here we go. You'll see it right there. And what I want to do is just tuck it in right here in this one little gap behind those flowers. And there we go. Let me hold that up, and you can see it just gives that little bit of texture running through our border. And there you go. I got all 4 of those tools that were pre-selected on one border. And I'm still going to work on this, and I'm going to trim off this side, but we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the other page. So let me go ahead and here on the gray strip, and I'll meet you back with my base pages and ready to go on that page. Hold on. I'm going to use white cardstock for my background today. And let's bring in the border. And I'm only going to do one border. Even though I'm going to try and make the 2-page spread, I didn't want to make another border, although I do think it would look very, very nice over here as a second border. Let's bring back in our sketch for a moment so we can kind of look at it. Now, I feel like I'm far off of this sketch now because I created a border. This one doesn't necessarily have a border. So I have my background piece here, and this section right here is about a 1 3/4, and this could be my border. So I can move it up, still kind of create this layout, because when I see all these little strips right here, and even though they're 1 3/4 inch squares, I also feel like you could also put a strip of paper there instead. So that's what I'm going to go for. So I'm going to follow this a little bit just to kind of get me going and get me started. So I'm going to put this up here. Now, if you notice on the sketch, this row right here of the strips of paper, it comes in about 1.5 inches in like that. And so that's what I was saving this section for. Instead of having a 12-inch border like this, I'm going to trim this half piece off and trim that down just a little bit so that it kind of sits on the page like that. Then I want to bring this striped paper from the Perfectly Patriotic collection. This is the back side of that beautiful firework paper. And I'm going to trim it down a little bit to kind of match our sketch here. I'm going to slide it under and see. I want the white to come through the back of the stars because I think that looks super beautiful. But I do want this paper tucked in underneath my border. And I'm going to trim I think I'm gonna do the 1 3/4 inch, and let's see if we like that. In fact, I'll go up to a full 2 inches just to make sure. And then according to our sketch, this is a 10.5 inch strip. And then I'll tuck this right under here and it'll look like that. They have a 6 by 4 inch photo here, full size, and I'm gonna do the same thing. In fact, they have this going all the way to the edge, so let's try that. And then here they have a 6 by 8 inch piece of paper. So for that, I'm gonna bring in this red sunburst. I'm gonna cut that right at 8 inches. And then I'm gonna turn it and cut it at 6 inches. So I have a piece for each side, and it'll look like this, and that'll butt right up next to our blue piece up here. And then down here, they have another piece of blue paper coming out. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't think I quite need 2 inches. So this time I will go to 1 3/4 by 10.5. And we'll butt this one up right next to that one. Okay, so before we go on with more photo placement, let me come over here to this side and figure out what we're gonna do over here on this side. So I do want to bring in some more of this paper. I just have to decide where. And this paper. So this one I'm gonna do the same thing like we did over here and place it about right there. And here I have some more vertical photos, like this one, for example. This is how the sketch is designed. And then I can cut same blue paper that we did on this side, and that would work out great. Let's go ahead and bring in our other photos. So I'm gonna bring in these 2 4x6 photos. One's gonna go up here, and then the other is gonna come right here. This 4x6 photo right here. And then in our sketch, they had some 3.5 inch photos, and I liked that idea. I think what I'm gonna do is cut down these 3 photos into 3.5 inch photos and bring them in down here and kind of bring these in kind of playfully like that. I want to bring in something over on the other side to kind of help bring in the same look we have over here. And that's where I'm going to incorporate this piece. I think I'm going to have this right here. And I'm not going to have it come all the way to the edge, but what I'm going to do is bring back in some of those flowers. And I'll probably just do 2 of them. And then I'll trim it right about here. Let me bring back in some of that blue striped paper, and then we'll bring in this one right here and this one at the top. Then one of the last things I want to do is bring in my photo mats. Now here I have 2 white photo mats. Let's see if I can get that for you to see, where I have went ahead and did the perforating blade around the edge so that it'll give a little bit of a definition to the photo. And you can see it in person. You just can't really see it on the screen that well, but it's there. And I did 2 of those on white for these 2 photos. And then I'm going to show you how I did it using this navy photo mat that I'm going to put on this photo up here. So let me go ahead and move in my trimmer and get that blade back. Okay, so what I did was I only wanted it to be on 1/4 inch. So these are actually a little bit wider than I was planning. So what I've learned is I'm going to take the edge of my paper and put it right here on the second cut line. Then I'm going to move my trimmer up, and I'm just going to eyeball it till it looks like it's about 1/4 inch. And down here it goes to 4.5. So I can clearly see where 4 1/4 is, so I can judge that a little bit better. So I'll come down here to about there, and then I'm going to turn it, put it back on that cut line. This time I can see where the perforated line is, and I'm going to try and start right there, come back down to about where 1/4 inch before the edge is, and stop. and turn and do it again. And then the last time you have 2 lines, makes it a little bit easier. Line it up on that second line again. And there you go. You can see the little bit of texture that added to this photo mat. I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera and get all this adhered down, and then I'll be back and we can decide if we're going to do any embellishing or not. Okay, hold on. Everything is adhered down and I feel like I've done a lot to this page. I love it. It's very, it is very patriotic. It helps that the people in the photos are also wearing a lot of red, white, and blue, so it really pops. A few things, I did trim these down to 3-inch squares instead of 3.5-inch, just to make it fit a little bit better. And I don't think it took away from my photos at all. Then I have one other photo that I wanted to add, and it's this one right here, and I've cropped it down already. I have this big open space, and I was trying to fit it on before, and it wasn't working, so I think what I'm gonna do is just have it overlapping this photo right here and coming down somewhere about like that. That kind of fills in that space. Okay, so let's look at our sticker sheets. We do have all these great and wonderful titles, and of course the one at the very top is the most appropriate. This was the 4th of July, so I thought I would bring that in and kind of rest it right here on that photo to kind of fill in some of that space right there. And then right here, I had one flower left from when we punched our flowers, and I thought, I think I might bring it right in here and cover up that corner and that awkwardness right there. Then come back to my sticker sheet because I see a lot of little banners, perfect for the 4th of July. I think I'm going to go with this one right here that says Traditions. The banner is going to be a little long, so I'm going to trim that and then come back here and give it a new fishtail. I liked the length, it just wasn't going to fit in my area, so I need to make it fit in my area. So I'll tuck it right under here, and it'll say Traditions. On this sticker sheet, there are 3 of these red star stickers, and I think they're all different sizes, so I think it's going to be perfect. And I'm going to put them down here, just kind of create more of an embellishment area down here. I don't think I'm going to put any journaling on this particular page. I already have one other 2-page spread for this particular year, and I think between this and this, that's gonna say enough about what this is. It's something we do every year, so perfect tradition, and I just want to get some photos into my album. So there we go. That's my 2-page spread. That's incorporating all 4 of these wonderful tools, including that really hard to use perforating blade. But I did get it in there, and that was my challenge. But the other ones, I feel like they were pretty easy, and I was pretty successful at getting all 4 of those pre-selected tools used on my layout. I hope that you give this a try. Put your items in a list, spin the wheel, spin it and see, and randomly use them, because sometimes we put them away and we don't use them for a long time, so it's good to pull them back out and get them used. That's all I have for today. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.